Let's rock, baby.
The Grand Theft Auto series has had quite the legacy. From GTA 3 onwards, each main title just kept reaching new peaks, not just in terms of the gameplay itself, but from the amount of sales generated from these groundbreaking titles. With almost every game getting scores of 90 and above on Metacritic, it brings up an interesting question. What is the worst Grand Theft Auto game? Well, according to Metacritic, that would be GTA Advance, released for the Game Boy Advance as the name implies. God, now that I think about it, Nintendo fans have never been too lucky with this series, have they? You think because of the amount of re-releases the Switch has, Rockstar could just as easily put the GTA trilogy on there at least. But I guess they're too busy at the minute with a new project for next gen. GTA Online. Again. Anyway, let's just take a look at GTA Advance and see whether it deserves to be considered the worst game in the series. 2004 was undoubtedly a big year for the franchise. After the success of 3 and Vice City, the hype for the upcoming San Andreas releasing at the end of the year was through the roof. During this time though, GTA Advance was also being developed by Digital Eclipse, eventually releasing on the 26th of October 2004, the exact day that San Andreas came out. Damn. I mean, even I don't have to tell you what this meant for Advance's sales. Despite the game going pretty much under the radar, the fact that you could play a fully fledged GTA game in 2D similar to the original but on a handheld is fairly impressive. The game starts off just like any other from the series by making you drive around the local area, getting familiar with the safe house, ammunition, pay and spray, and key people who you'll do missions for. Story-wise, there's not much to talk about honestly. You play as a small-time criminal called Mike who, along with his friend Vinny, try to escape Liberty City. After the first few missions, Vinny apparently dies in a car explosion, then you go back to doing more generic missions. This is seriously though one of the saddest deaths in gaming history. It gets me every time.
1038 in North Tower. We got a suspect on foot in North Callahan Point.
Each mission roughly has the same structure of driving from point A to B, collecting something, killing someone, stealing a car, or doing a combination of all three, then driving back. Sure, you did a lot of that in the main titles, but one of the things that kept these parts at least interesting was the wanted level. In this game, it feels like the police are far more relaxed, and as long as none are on screen, you can pretty much run over as many people as you like and not even get a single star. Even with a high wanted level, the police don't feel like much of a threat, which is kind of a big issue for a game called Grand Theft Auto. With that being said, it's clear that technical limitations really held this game back. Once there's more than like 4 NPCs on screen at once, the low frame rate is enough to give me a headache, and driving around the city at high speeds doesn't help either. The next problem I have is actually common with all of the 2D GTA games, and it's like you can hardly see what's in front of you while driving, so trying to drive fast for a time-based mission almost feels unfair at times. It gets to the point where driving on the footpath is a better strategy, as fucked up as that is to say. Despite how awkward the driving can be at times, the controls on the other hand feel responsive enough to the point where you can weave in and out of lanes, dodging every car with enough practice. The combat on the other hand feels a bit clunky, with bullets travelling in slow motion and the shotgun having the same range as a baseball bat. Fortunately though, you can strafe by holding R and moving right or left, which saves you from constantly having to reposition yourself since enemies in this game never stand still. The more time I spend playing this makes me wish for a top-down GTA with the controls and style of Hotline Miami. Could you imagine how insane that would be? Yeah, I know it's unfair to compare these two games, especially since we're talking about a Game Boy Advance game, but it's hard trying to play any other top-down shooter when today it's basically been perfected. Again, like I said earlier, the controls are fine for the most part, especially since they're working on the GBA's limited inputs. Unlike previous GTA titles, there's no licensed music, which is understandable. There's only a handful of tracks used for car rides, which admittedly aren't bad, but since I haven't played through the entire game, I can't speak for their longevity. Despite no voice acting and cutscenes for obvious reasons, there's a few voice lines for pedestrians in the police radio, which is a nice touch. The graphics are decent enough considering the hardware, with plenty of color used for Liberty City, which is a good change compared to every other game that's set there, which looks grey and dull. So overall, is Grand Theft Auto Advance the worst game in the series? Well, since Metacritic doesn't list the original Grand Theft Auto on their list, then yes, yes, this is technically the weakest game, but that doesn't necessarily make it a bad game, since GTA games have such a high ranking, though the only other game that could be considered the worst is the original in my opinion. If you look at GTA Advance just as a GBA title on its own, then I'd say it was a decent time waster at best. For 2004, the game may have flaws, but getting to explore an open world city and have fun causing chaos on the go might have tided you over for a while on a holiday if you're already missing playing San Andreas. Today it's really just a novelty at this point, and at the end of it all, I guess the moral of this story is to keep begging Rockstar to put GTA on the Switch. Thanks for watching.